In fourth period today, I went over 1 through 8. If you go and look, it'll be the first video that's there. I'll put these videos in order. Go to my webpage on parkview.net. 1 through 8 will be the first one. It will replace that Chapter 6 review, which I know a lot of you went to. So in this will say EOCT Chapter 1 review from CC Common Core Algebra 1. Okay, the tension caused by a wave moving along a string. I noticed this formula here. This formula says I equals, it probably said, it should say T equals, but anyway. T equals mv squared over L. If m is the mass of the string in grams, so m is mass, and it's given in grams. L is the length of the string in centimeters. And V is the velocity in centimeters per second squared. Okay, what it wants to know is what is the unit of the tension of the string T. That's why I'm saying I think this is supposed to be T and not I. Regardless, we have MVL. Again, this is one of the things I've been trying to get you guys to see all along. If you have 4 variables, all I have to do is give you any of the three, and you're good to go. So, what do we have here? M is grams, so that would be grams over, which is in centimeters, so grams hyphen centimeters. That's kind of what that means right there, the gram over centimeter per second squared. That's times b squared, second squared. That's what that means. So, number 9, you're just picking out how the stuff's set up. See, it couldn't be centimeters per second because the centimeters is on bottom. The L is given in centimeters. That's the unit of measurement. What is it that makes this problem difficult? You have to be able to do what we're doing. What do these units have to be? Yeah, they all got to be the same. This happened earlier in the day. If you look back on some of these other problems, there were some things that happened in the earlier problems that were pretty tough because it said a rectangular prism has a volume, and I know this is going backwards, but I just want to talk to you about this concept. A rectangular prism has a volume of V equals 2 cubic meters. 2 cubic meters, but look what the question is in. But a length of 40 centimeters and a width of 50 centimeters. Well, the problem is to come up with your answers, I can't put just a 2 cubic meters right there. I can't put that. I have to put it in the same unit of measurement. So this 2 cubic meters, I had to change to cubic centimeters. The students in my last period class were comfortable with King Henry died. Yeah, drinking chocolate milk. And so what happens here when I go from 2 cubic meters to decimeters, watch, you better look at this. When I go from meters to centimeters, I just move the decimal 2 places. So when I'm measuring linear measurement, that's just moving the decimal. That's just moving the decimal. But when I'm doing cubic meters, I have to move the decimal 3 times. So 2 cubic meters is 2 million cubic centimeters. Look, 2, 1, 2. Every time I move it, I don't move the decimal 1 place now. I move the decimal 3 places. Look at number 7. Number 7 was very similar to that. It said a rectangle has an area of 12 square meters. Now every time I go down my King Henry died drinking chocolate milk. Every time I move that down, now it's 2 decimal places. So 12 square meters, when I change it to square centimeters, I have to go 12, move the decimal 4 places. So I added 4 zeros on it. When you write those problems, guys, you got to think about that. You got to get the same unit of measurement. An amount of $1,000 is deposited in a bank that pays 4% annual interest. What would the bank account balance be after 5 years? Exponential growth or exponential decay? Growth. Very good. So, if you remember, I don't know if you do, the formula was A equals P times 1 plus R to the T. Anybody remember what those variables stood for? P. $1,000 is called the principal. Principal times 1 plus 4%. How in the world do you write 1 plus 4%? 1 plus 0.4 or 0.04? Very good. 1,000 times 1.04 to the, after 5 years, you just put a 5 right there. So, take a calculator and do 1,000 times 1.04 to the 5th. Somebody's got a calculator. So we can figure out what that is later if we ask you. Anybody got one? Just put in 1,000 times 1.04 to the 5th. As I don't want to spend all my time on this video telling you to be quiet and stuff like that, so stop. Somebody multiply that out. What do you get? Yeah.
1,216.65.
1,002 what?
216.65.
65?
Yeah.
Exact answer? He rounded it. Why is this exponential growth? Is that number where? Greater than what? 1. If that number is less than 1, if that number right there is less than 1, it's an exponential decay. Will this, guys, this is major, will this number right here ever be negative? No. Remember, if it's negative, what's really happened is we've got a positive base. We've just changed this multiplier to a negative. That number out in front was called the multiplier. Okay. Again, they've just made up a problem here. The number of calories burned during exercise depends on the activity. The formulas for the 2 activities are given. One of them is 0.012 m to the t. What does that stand for? I don't know what it stands for. 0.032 times. Does it matter what it stands for? Not necessarily in the way that they presented the problem. If one activity is cooking and the other activity is bicycling, identify which one's which. And why would you think that? 0.032, I think, would be bicycling. Which is going to burn more calories, bicycling or cooking? Yeah, you got to think. So that's where more calories get burnt here, because of 0.032 is greater than 0.012. What value would you expect the coefficient to have if the activity were reading? Would you expect it to get even bigger? Yeah, it'd be even smaller than what number? 0.012. Is that okay? All right, let's do some work from yesterday. Let's combine this with something I found out yesterday we might not remember. So if I wanted to write x is less than 0.012, or if I wanted to write x is less than or equal to 0.012, and I wanted to do interval notation. Do you remember my discussion on interval notation yesterday? Let's change this one around for just our conversation right here. Let's make sure we can do both of them. Okay, that'll get both parentheses and brackets or braces, brackets in, and it'll also make us put positive infinity and negative infinity. So look, x is less than 0.012. So negative infinity, comma, 0.012, and then what am I going to use, a parenthesis or a bracket? We okay? Okay, this one, is it going to end? No, so I'll go positive infinity over here. Is that good? Guys, just to make sure we're all on the same page, I got these numbers now, and I want to play with these numbers for a second. Let's say I wanted to write 0.012 is x is greater than 0.012 and less than or equal to 0.032. Okay, that means x is between these two. So x is somewhere in the middle. Back when we did these first, I think the best analogy I drew you was with the water and the banks, and the banks of a river keep the water inside of it. So the water's in between here. So what you're looking for is you're looking for the numbers in between 0.012 and 0.032. That's just between. 0.012 is less than x, and x is less than or equal to that. Now, to do interval notation with this, remember, to get that symbol, you use a parenthesis. To get this symbol, use a bracket. Guys, don't get tricked by this when you've seen it. If you see that right there, guys, that's going to look just like an ordered pair to you if you're not careful. See, that's an ordered pair, 0, 2. But that can also mean the numbers between 0 and 2. You got to look at how the question's being asked, all the other things around it. It's kind of like a language arts question almost. All right. The kinetic energy of an object in motion is found using the formula Ke equals 1/2 mv squared. Well, that's just what it is. Where m is mass in kilograms. M is mass in kilograms. And v is the velocity per second. Oh, meters per second, I'm sorry. If the velocity of the object is 20 meters per second, what is the coefficient of m? Tough problem right here, because what you have is you have all of these variables, and then they're asking you to plug this stuff in and go ahead and reduce it and everything like that. So if I'm going to plug something in, I'm going to plug 20 in for what number? V. So when I plug 20 in for V right there, that gives me 1/2 times m times 20 squared. So now, what comes first? Taking half of m or 20 squared? What'd your dear Aunt Sally tell you to do first? You got to do that power first, so that gives you 400. So now you got half of m, and you got 400. Which of those numbers can you do anything? Can you take half of m? No, you don't know what m is. Can you take half of 400?
Yes.
Where'd I get 400? Where'd I get 400 from? What's half of 400?
200.
Meters squared per second squared. A certain good one. A certain population of bacteria has a growth rate of 0.02 bacteria per hour. The formula, here's a formula, A equals P sub 0, 2.1 sub 0.02, where PO is the original population and T is the time in hours. If you begin with 200 bacteria, so if my beginning point is 200, okay, should be just a matter of substitution, plugging it in. Here's what I want to make sure you know. How many do you start out with? 200. How do I make, look up here, how do I make this value right here equal to 1? By doing time of 0. If time is 0, what's 0.02 times 0? So that leaves me 2.71828 to the 0. What's any number to the 0 power? 1. So that would be 200 times 1. 200. So basically, all they're asking us to do here is all this mess is, all this stuff is going on so that we'll substitute in here, and approximately how many can you expect after 100 hours? All we got to do is plug in 100 right there. So 0.02 times 100 should be 2, shouldn't it? So 200 times 2.27, it's got to be, what is it? Is it B? So 200 times 2.27, no, it's going to be bigger than that. Right, 200 times 2.71828 squared. So this comes first, times 200. 2.7 times 2.27 times 27 has got to be 6. I think it's more than likely going to be that answer. Somebody take their calculator and get it. What's the sum of the angles of a triangle? This is A? No way it's A. There's no way. If you just plug in 200 times 2.71828 to the second, right? 100 times that is to the second. So that's 1460. This is it.
Yeah, I got 1,477.
All right. So the sum of them is 180. I have 2 of them. Anybody? Keep going. A social media website currently has 1,000 members. So again, guys, we're doing a exponential growth problem. So A equals the starting point. What's the starting point? 1,000. That join the triples every 6 months. To the T. That's your time. Start right there.